I'm Shiv, founder and CEO of View of Digital, and I have my fearless co-host with me for today's episode, Myles Younger.
Yo.
Myles, say hi.
Yo.
And we have a very special guest for today's episode, Heather Macaulay. Heather, over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Shiv and Myles. So great to be here. Heather Macaulay, president of MadConnect. At MadConnect, we focus on solving one of the biggest hidden bottlenecks to AI in marketing, which is really data and platform connectivity. I've been in the space for a very long time, so excited to have some good discussions today.
Awesome. Love it. Let's get into it. So this week's top story is all things Black Friday and Cyber Monday and whatever you want to call it. Holiday shopping. Let's call it holiday shopping. So obviously this is, it's all kind of morphing right towards AI and agentic shopping. And we're like in the early stages of it still. But I think this year was the first year we kind of felt some of the impacts of AI and how it affects the holiday season. So what I want to do is get into some quick stats from like the various sources that are out there talking about how AI actually impacted the holiday season. So first, let's talk about some of the highlights. There was a 9% increase in overall spend year over year for Cyber Monday, Black Friday. Shoppers who came from an AI service were 38% more likely to buy something than those who came from other sources. Really interesting stat. AI traffic to US retail sites jumped 805% year over year on Black Friday, according to Adobe Analytics. That's like, that to me is more of like we're in the early innings of AI. And people are using AI more than they have in the past type of stat, but still 805%, big jump. Amazon's Rufus, so they put out some interesting stats. Shoppers that used the Rufus AI assistant on Amazon completed purchases at double the rate of non-Rufus users, which I found to be a really fascinating stat. AI agents influenced nearly 1 in 5 orders per Salesforce. And there was like a big kind of winner-loser story that was floating around out there. So Ulta, which is a beauty cosmetics brand, apparently appeared in 85.9% of beauty ChatGPT prompts versus Sephora, which, you could argue Sephora is a bigger beauty brand. They only appeared in about 45% of those ChatGPT prompts, likely because Ulta was doing a lot more in terms of AI visibility, AI optimization. They created more content for Black Friday for AI crawlers to get into. And so those are some of the interesting stats on the highlight side. Now, on the flip side, negative 1% in terms of number of sheer items sold year over year. So the actual quantity of products sold actually declined year over year. Prices went up 7%. And we all know we're kind of in an inflationary environment right now. Consumers on average bought 4% less items in their carts. There was an 11% increase in buy now, pay later. Now we're getting into some economic stuff that's concerning. And this is the one that blew my mind. 97% of Black Friday shopping was financed. And 68% of that number people are not expecting to pay off within the next 30 days. So again,
we're getting...
Yeah, go ahead.
97% was put on credit cards or buy now, pay later?
Exactly. And then 68% of all purchases, people are not expecting to pay them off in the next 30 days, which is really not great and pretty scary for our economy. Forget about ads for a second. So there's a lot going on here. I want to unpack a few things real quick. So the first thing I want to unpack is like, we have all these awesome stats like, AI is getting people to convert at twice the rate. People that are using Rufus on Amazon are much more likely to buy. There's an increase in spend year over year. There's an 805% jump in traffic coming to e-com from AI. So all these amazing stats about AI. But my question is like, if you look at the big picture, it's not really positive year over year in terms of like growth of shopping. And maybe AI has something to do with that. Maybe AI has nothing to do with that. Maybe it's just an economic thing. But I'd love to hear just some quick takes from you guys on like, what is going on from an AI impact on shopping perspective, just based on what you've just heard. So Heather, let's start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think consumers they aren't stopping, but they're really slowing maybe and prioritizing a little bit more. And I think we do have to separate the economics a little bit from what's happening in AI. I think it's really interesting how people are starting to shop. They're having a conversation, right, with an agent, with ChatGPT or what have you, to make those purchase decisions. I mean, again, they're still shopping, and I think higher prices, higher interest rates, rising cost of living, all have things to do with the fact that maybe the numbers weren't as high as we thought. But then look at where the traffic's coming from, right? And I think if you, at the end of the day, is content really like the new shelf placement? If you're not, a shelf on the store, you don't get bought. And I think what the Ulta and Sephora example taught us is that, like, if AI can't see you, like, are you going to show up? And so I think it's a really good lesson for us to think about.
Absolutely. And I think like the bigger question here, and this is frankly always kind of the question with AI, is it growing the pie? Right. Mm-hmm. And like, there's been a lot of naysaying like, oh, well, productivity and economy wise, it's actually not growing the pie. There's all these studies being put out. Now, I believe it does grow the pie. I believe Myles believes that as well. Myles, I'll come to you in a second. But these numbers are interesting, right? Because it's like, okay, well, even if people are more likely to convert when coming through AI, even if the traffic coming from AI tools is increasing so much, are we just shuffling things around? Are people just changing how they're shopping versus AI is actually helping people shop better, shop more, grow the pie? Obviously, the economy and some of these other indicators are a huge variable here, and it's hard to isolate what the actual impact of AI is, right? But it's interesting to think about. Myles, let's go to you. What do you think?
Heather, I think you're spot on about separating the whatever macroeconomic factors from the technology factors. Shiv, as you were describing the impact that AI had on at least whatever, this is early days, this is like whatever, maybe AI's first big, shopping season ever. So we have little to compare it to. But especially the statistic around AI resulting in the shopper being more likely to complete the purchase. Now, in a contractionary economic environment where you're selling fewer items, if you're a retailer or if you're Amazon, that's very important. That's like, you don't need to grow the pie for that to be a tailwind for AI. It's like, look, if our shoppers are going to be buying like less stuff because of macroeconomic factors that are outside of Amazon's control. And so what do we need to do? We need to make this shopping experience as efficient and frictionless as it can possibly be to preserve whatever margins, growth targets, whatever that we have left. And so, I don't know, perhaps counterintuitively, I would see that as a tailwind for AI heading into next year, heading into the rest of the holiday season of like, look, this is new table stakes for efficiency.
100%.
It collapses decision time too at the end of the day, I think, right? So there you go. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So let's get in. That's a nice segue. Let's get into what are retailers supposed to do? So retailers, arguably some of the world's largest advertisers, not arguably, everyone agrees. Retailers are the world's largest advertisers. So what do retailers do, right? So I think what we've seen from like a strategy perspective from Amazon, Amazon's the world's largest online retailer. What we've seen is they have not played ball with the ChatGPTs of the world, right? They're not allowing ChatGPT to crawl Amazon product listings. They're not allowing ChatGPT to enable commerce within ChatGPT at all, right? They're shutting it off. And what they're saying is, you have to come to us, right? You have to use our AI tool, which they're calling Rufus, Ruf. And they're saying you have to use Rufus to navigate and figure out what's happening within Amazon. We're treating this like a walled garden strategy, right? And I think, listen, like that may not be the most consumer. Oh, hold on. Pause. My light thing went out.
You know what? Actually, while you're working on that, I'm going to get up and walk around because my office light will go out if I just sit still.
As long as you hear my dog barking, all right, we're good.
Well, it would be appropriate if it's Rufus, we're talking about Rufus. Okay. I'm going to start again, right from where I was talking. So I think this is an interesting segue for thinking about what retailers should do. Right. So let's start with the biggest online retailer in the world. It's Amazon. Right. So Amazon's strategy has very much been, we're not playing ball with AI. We're not playing ball with OpenAI, with ChatGPT, with any of these other LLMs. We're not going to let them crawl our website, our product listings, our prices. We're not going to enable e-commerce in those tools. You have to come to Amazon. You have to use Rufus if you want AI to help you with your shopping experience. They're treating it very much like a walled garden strategy when it comes to AI from a consumer facing perspective. And listen, I think Amazon can afford to do that. It's not necessarily like the most consumer friendly thing to do, right? Like any consumer would tell you, I'd love to be able to shop on Amazon using ChatGPT, right? But Amazon's like, sorry, we're not doing that. And you're still going to buy from us, because we are Amazon. We are going to ship overnight. We are going to have the lowest prices. We're going to be, where you subscribe to Prime, blah, 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 right? They have a very sticky product that people are going to use regardless of how Amazon kind of pushes or throws its weight around from an AI perspective. Now, listen, if you're Amazon, you can do that. If you're other retailers, you can't necessarily do that, right? And we're already seeing that. Like other retailers are playing ball with OpenAI. Walmart is playing ball with OpenAI. Shopify is enabling all of their retailers information and data to exist in ChatGPT and enabling transactions in ChatGPT, right? So I think that's an interesting, it's an interesting kind of fork in the road moment for retailers who are also the largest advertisers in the world. What do, right? And I think from my perspective, it's a little bit of a lose-lose kind of proposition where on one hand, if you're like a mid-sized retailer, let's say you're Macy's, let's say you're Costco, let's say you're any one of these non-Amazon retailers, you have to show up in AI, right? We just saw that with Ulta versus Sephora. You have to show up in AI. If you don't, you're sacrificing revenue. You're sacrificing sales. So you have to show up there. But on the other side, if you show up there, you're giving up data. You're giving up your consumer relationship. You're maybe giving up your commerce media ads business, right? And so like, that's a little bit of a lose-lose situation. And ultimately, like, I think it's interesting to think about eventually OpenAI and ChatGPT are going to have ads. Are they just going to suck all of this commerce media money into OpenAI when they enable shopping? When they enable ads on OpenAI? It's really interesting to think about. So let's start, Myles, this time with you. What are your thoughts on what retailers should do?
Far be it from me to tell a retailer what their, channel strategy should be. But I am of the opinion that, AI is LLMs, discovery inside of LLMs, native transactions inside of LLMs, shopping transactions is far less exotic than it's being made out to be. I mean, this is not the first time and the first way that a retailer has been faced with the choice of giving up some control of the shopping journey in return for shopper demand. And so I think, retailers are just gonna, play this game the same way they played it with Google and search. And I mean, the other thing to point out is like, retailers have their own version of this where they hold the brands hostage who want to stock the stuff on the shelves. It's like everybody's playing this game. So, I just see it as being less exotic, perhaps, than a lot of the whatever industry discourse makes it out to be.
Fair enough. Just show up in AI. Show up in AI. Do your job.
Don't be Sephora.
Don't be Sephora. Heather, what do you think?
I totally agree. I mean, that's the value exchange, like giving up your data for giving that demand, to Myles' point. I think in the meantime, all these retailers, I'm going to keep harping on this, and what we tell our clients is make sure that your product data is readable and LLM ingestible, right? Your data has to be organized in, a consumable data layer, whether you're going to work with those guys or not. So start doing that. At least you can prepare and do that now while you kind of wait. We kind of wait and see, because a lot of us, we just don't know right now.
Heather, yeah. On that topic of like discoverability and data and metadata that brands should be publishing, or be making available, or retailers should be making available. So like on the one hand, a lot of what at least I'm hearing is that AI visibility is to great extent sort of SEO 2.0. It's not like that different from SEO, but you're closer to this. And so how is it shaping up to be like different than SEO? Like, what are brands having to, or retailers having to organize in terms of their data that's maybe different than what they've been working on for the last, 20 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. Some things that just pop to mind is like maybe things more like frequently asked questions, right? As we start to think about like research of how what we're pulling. Like I was shopping the other day for like skincare and asking like, what to ChatGPT, like what should I be using? And it's looking at recommendations, right? It's looking at user generated content, a lot of that sense. So that's something to think about before, because we always think about when we talk to our clients about just marketing and advertising data, it's like, trying to look at the 360-degree view of that consumer. But then also like, let's think about like those recommendations and the questions that, your customers are asking and pulling that in as well. And making sure all of it's like very clean and rich.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think like Heather, that's the big idea, right? And it's not even that groundbreaking, but if you're a retailer, to Myles's point, you got to show up where consumers are going. You have to show up in AI. Don't be Sephora, be Ulta. But then simultaneously, really double and triple down on your data strategy outside of just people are going to come to my website and shop on my website. Think about subscriptions. Think about your loyalty program. Think about your owned channels, right? Email and SMS and apps. Like, how do you double down on those experiences? How do you create your own AI tools that are incrementally valuable on top of ChatGPT, right? So I think you have to be doing all of those things if you're a retailer in order to tackle this kind of complicated, what feels like a lose-lose situation. It doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't, because remember, at the end of the day, like that, right? For right now, you have that direct relationship with the consumer. Use that to your advantage to pull as much data as you can at this point. And go from there.
Cool. Okay, love it. Let's transition out of holiday shopping and Black Friday. Let's talk about a few other big things that happened in AI over the last week. So first of all, there was an internal memo sent around at OpenAI by Sam Altman, issuing apparently a code red, which is ironic because apparently 3 years ago, Sundar at Google did the same thing. And he said, hey, everybody, watch out. ChatGPT is coming for our search lunch. And now Sam is doing the same thing at OpenAI and other frontier models. I think he also referenced Facebook's models and a few others. And he just basically said, we need to pump the brakes on some of these other distracting things we're working on. And we really need to focus on the quality of ChatGPT. I think he also said like ads, or there was some implication that we're pumping the brakes on anything to do with ads. So that happened. Any quick takes on that? Like I feel like that's just kind of like an obvious thing. And Gemini 3, I think kind of rocked everybody a couple of weeks ago with the quality and the capabilities. So yeah, that happened. Sam's scared.
It was really naive when everybody was like, oh, they're going to eat Google's lunch several years ago. I'm like, guys, Google's been at this for like 25 years. Yeah. OpenAI's not going to overtake them overnight. Like, I'm sorry, it ain't going to happen.
I have been impressed with Google. Like Google could have totally fumbled this bag really badly, and they haven't. I feel like I say this on every podcast. Like I am impressed with Google. Good job, Google. Okay, let's keep moving. Hey Heather, sorry, did you have a quick take on that one?
I'm good. You can keep going.
Okay, next thing I want to get into. So, let's see. Salesforce might rebrand itself into Agentforce. Did you see that? Oh, that's just funny. That's funny. That's funny. I don't know if there's not a there. Okay, let's get into. Okay, so Scott Brinker, our friend Scott Brinker, friend of the podcast, he runs Chief MarTech. He dropped a 127-page report, as he is known to do sometimes, on the state of MarTech, the state of AI in marketing and advertising, and there was a lot of really awesome tidbits in there. If you don't read all 127 pages, I won't blame you. I uploaded it to AI, and then I asked AI for some help. Okay, but here are some of the key takeaways. So I think, the obvious point he made was marketing is entering into the agentic era, right? It's not just about AI tools, but it's about AI agents actually executing across your stack. He kind of posed the question, what does the MarTech stack actually look like in a few years? Do we still need all of these solutions? Will AI create a collapse or a consolidation? And the idea is like, we don't know. We're still in the early innings. Some of the stats he put out, like most teams are still just experimenting with AI. They're not actually implementing in meaningful ways. Hype right now exceeds reality, but everything is moving fast. The other things I thought that were interesting, he mentioned top challenges or poor data quality was number one, kind of going back to what we just talked about. Like, get your data house in order right now. That is your moat. That is your secret superpower in the AI era, is your data. So get your data in order right now. That's a huge issue just around data quality. The other thing, this is a U of digital. We didn't pay Scott to say this, but he said, org and people and process readiness is the second biggest problem that he sees. There's like this, upwards curve of innovation with the actual tools, but there's a very kind of basic logarithmic curve of like AI learning and adoption and use and productivity and knowledge. And so that kind of that divergence needs to be solved for through training and enablement. And then integration was a third thing he cited as the big issue. So, Heather, this is where you come in. I want to hear a little bit more about, first of all, your perspective on the report. And then this is a really nice transition into MadTech and your work in MadTech, what you guys do. And so I want to just hand it over to you to kind of respond to this and get into your world a little bit and what you're seeing with your customers.
I got so excited when I saw this report. First of all, I love Scott Brinker's reports. I feel like he brings like humor into it, and it's awesome. It was a lot. I have to take it in chunks. And I was really excited about the third challenge that marketers are having, because that's really what MadConnect is solving for. So I think one interesting point that Scott said was that, AI agents are not replacing MarTech. They're becoming the new interface to MarTech. That's a direct quote from him, which I really loved. You are no longer going to be needing to swivel between all of these different like screens and tools in order to get your job done. That should get you really, really excited. But however, when we think about all of what's happening on the agentic side, and we get so excited about what agents can accomplish and all the outcomes they can do it and how efficiently they can do it, I love what Scott said is like the magic and the importance happens below AI, right? All of these platforms still have to be connected. And what he said, which was I thought was so interesting, in like 2 to 5 years, what the MarTech stack is going to look like, it's not going to be smaller, it's going to be smarter. Right? There's going to be maybe even more tools and platforms, but the end user is not going to see that anymore. It's not going to be as difficult to them. And so where I get excited about this coming from MadConnect is that is literally the challenge that we solve for, is that engineering teams are spending so much time building and maintaining integrations between their MarTech and AdTech stack, between clouds and DSPs and SSPs and enrichment providers and data clean rooms and all of that. And that is a huge burden. And that is not going to go away with AI. That is going to get worse because your platforms need to communicate because there's more data. And so when Scott talked about that third challenge being this integration challenge we've been talking about for a decade, it's still here. We can help solve for that.
That's awesome, Heather. So I have a question for you. Just, pardon my ignorance. So like my understanding of your business is you are an integrator in a way, right? You integrate the crazy kind of stack that marketers have, from a MarTech perspective, an AdTech perspective. You create those connections, right? MadConnect. AI obviously should theoretically help in making those connections. I would love to hear from you. Like, how are you guys at MadConnect tackling the integration challenge using AI, if you're using AI at all yet? Or what do you think, how does AI actually help the integration challenge, whether it's in your work or, just how you view the future? I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so when you think of MadConnect, it's not like a systems integrator per se. It's a platform. It's an intelligent connectivity layer. So we're helping, integrate all those platforms. What AI has helped us do though is build those integrations faster through our platform. So, where it used to take like 6 to 8 weeks to build, we can do it in pretty much 48 hours. Wow. So we are using AI, of course, that's part of our intelligent connectivity layer. But what that's really doing is connecting your entire foundation so that can, power AI for you. Because if those systems aren't connected, AI is just not going to work. So AI, yes, is helping us, I would say, speed up the type of connectors that we're building. I would say it's also helping us monitor as well, because these APIs are constantly breaking if you build them yourself. So being able to monitor when there's changes, there's lots of different examples. So the answer is yes.
Got it. So I'm hearing speed. I'm hearing quality assurance and, like monitoring. What's the next iteration of that? Like what comes next? What else will AI unlock from like a stack perspective, a connectivity perspective?
Yeah, I think anything's possible. I think it's really about the going back to like that conversions we've been talking about from MadTech and MarTech side. It's going to happen faster now with AI because of these tools. And so MadConnect can help with that, right? So, before it was like, okay, we're focused in AdTech over here or MarTech over here. AI is sort of collapsing that so that the entire stack can be connected more quickly with a tool like MadConnect that can use AI to help power those connections more quickly.
Heather, I have a question about kind of like the evolution of partners like MadConnect. Like I have some exposure to this, but having been a ad tech founder myself, and then having been at Mighty Hive and Media Monks, and you just said something about, for instance, developing a new connector, let's say in 48 hours, where it used to take 6 to 8 weeks. And one of the things that you used to have to do was like a human being or multiple human beings would have to go look at the API documentation for both of the systems. And you have to like look up the thing that you need to do, and they have to code it up, blah, blah, blah. Now, with an LLM, you just say like, well, here's the API documentation. Could you please just code up the initial kind of version of this, and I can then start tinkering with it. And that gets you from a cold start, like much, much faster. And so like, how do you see your value prop changing? Because like so much of the value of platform partners and services partners, especially at that kind of integration layer, was just that like human expertise and that brute force of like, yeah, we can read your API documentation and we can get a handle on it. And but now LLMs can like handle so much of that. And then on the other hand, you're just moving much, much faster. And so like the value shifting from this like API expertise value prop, maybe more to a speed value prop, but I'm sure it's changing in other ways too. And I just would be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I think when we set out to build this platform, we thought it would be a lot easier than it has been, in a good way, right? Which is
Yeah.
so it's easy to replicate. I think each platform has its unique API, and I don't think that's really going to change in the near future. It's how and I think your MCPs are relying on your APIs, and all of that has to be connected. And so for me, I think that our value changes in different ways, where we're looking at the market saying, a lot of these legacy connectivity providers have not accessed data where it rests. Clients don't want to move their data anymore, right? And so what our architecture allows us to do is to actually do the normalization and do everything within the client's private environment, where clients now have like these private pools of data that we can access, versus you literally shipping your data somewhere where then you have to translate it to an ID. There's all this loss in fidelity. This is essentially what MadConnect does, is acting as a direct source from source to destination platform. So it's building the connector, and so much that I've heard over the past few months too. It's not just the build; it's the maintenance of these connections once they are built. This constant maintenance, and that's something that we're helping support as well.
Yeah. That's great.
Love
So it's
it.
like it's all about friction reduction.
It's absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Well said, Myles. So last thing I want to touch on here is, I feel like MarTech and AdTech have always been disjointed, right? And I think that's one of the big questions right now. And listen, there's been tons of examples and companies that have come along and said, we're going to change that, right? We're going to create that connective tissue between AdTech and MarTech. Why do these things live in silos? Doesn't make sense. I guess question for you, Heather, is do you see AI changing that or affecting that in any way? Again, this could pertain to your work or not. And if so, how? Like, how does AI create that connective tissue between AdTech and MarTech? What does that look like to finally actually make it happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, just to be clear, because there's so much debate on this, which cracks me up. and I've talked to Scott Brinker about this as well. When we talk about the convergence of AdTech and MarTech, we're not talking about like, marketecture now having to do 6 days because everyone's coming in, or like, we're having all these like joint huge conferences. Like you have to have your specialties too at the end of the day. When I think about the convergence of AdTech and MarTech, we're thinking about it as like the tightly integrated connected stacks, going back to that. And why is there a benefit there? It's because you're having that unified data, that single customer view. It's that efficiency, speed, and that like Myles just said, the reduced like it's operational friction, better performance, and more personalization that's happening. So with AI, I kept talking about how at the end of the day, data has to be in a clean, organized. It has to be clean and organized in a consumable data layer for AI to act. And AI needs a lot of data. And so because of that, you cannot think about your data within different silos within your ecosystem. Like, oh, this is our ad tech side and this is our MarTech side. AI doesn't care if it's accessing an ad tech side or a MarTech platform or an ad tech tool, right? It needs the data to do what it does best, right? And to create those outcomes. And so AI is absolutely, I'm seeing it from our clients' perspective, especially we work more with brands direct now. And what's interesting about that is they're not thinking about it in that way anymore. It's not like ad tech versus MarTech. And I think I saw a really interesting stat I wanted to pull up real quickly from, I think it was Zeta, that most marketers are so early in this like ad tech and MarTech journey that like less than 1 out of 4 actually have their unified MarTech and AdTech stacks, but 78% expect full convergence within the next 3 years. And that is happening because of they need to get, AI ready. And to do that, they know that they have to kind of collapse those walls.
I love that. Yeah, and I think like my big aha from that is just it's just all about the data. The reason those two like ad tech and martech today live in silos is because the stacks don't transfer the data back and forth. Like, hey, this thing happened over here in advertising land, and now I should feed it over there to marketing land. Like, that just doesn't happen. And I think AI can be a tailwind to help fix that problem. I think cloud as well is already trying to fix that problem. And I think the work you guys are doing at MadConnect, right? Bring your name is literally marketing tech and ad tech smashed together, right?
Exactly.
That's your brand.
That's our
So
brand.
I love it. I love it. So okay, last thing just to wrap up. Given what we just talked about, like what should marketers do? Like what is the so what right now? I know we touched on a couple things throughout the podcast, but what's like the kind of big aha final takeaway that you would leave marketers with, given the news of the week, given Scott's report? Myles, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll end with a bang with Heather.
Oh man, I mean, I this I'm going to keep it very, very brief. Is definitely keep working on your data. I mean, I think marketers have made an incredible amount of progress, and I don't know, Heather, I would be curious to see your reaction to this as to the shift or growth in expertise within marketing teams and the comfort level with these technologies growing a lot over the last couple of years, maybe the last 5, maybe 10 years, where a lot of these technologies and concepts were just very foreign to marketers even a few years ago. And now like they're staffing up teams of people who genuinely understand these things. They understand the relationships these data sets should have to each other. They understand the various like specialized technologies in their stacks. And so that's the thing to me to like keep focusing on, is just keep focusing on like getting smarter about the technology that you've already got, and then obviously the technology that is probably going to be coming around the next bend in 2026, 2027 and beyond. But yeah, Heather, I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more because, marketers have to become more technical, and this is getting so complicated. It is just, it's so complicated. We thought ad tech was complicated in itself. AI has further complicated things, which I'm glad you and your team are here, because the education piece is not going to end. This problem's going to get worse. I would say, and Myles sort of stole my get your data ready, but I would say that's number one. But number two, remember, think about the agents and everything the agents can do for you, but remember that the real magic happens below that. Make sure all of your platforms that are touching your data in some way, shape, or form are fully connected. They have to be connected for AI to act. Yeah, so that's what I would say is my one thing for now.
I love it. Great takeaway for this pod. It's all about your data. Your data is your kind of prized asset in the AI era. Your data should all kind of be in the same place. It should all be interconnected. Your stack needs to be interconnected. And that's why MadConnect exists, right? Yes? Is that fair,
Yes,
Heather?
you said it perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Heather, thanks for joining us for this week's pod. Really appreciate it. This is actually a really nice segue. We have some exciting news. So U of Digital has officially launched uofdigital.ai, which is a new training hub dedicated to AI training specifically for marketing professionals. We have a number of new AI accelerators in addition to our flagship AI accelerator. So we have AI accelerators now that we're launching in areas like search and creative and analytics and sales and executive AI boot camps, et cetera, right? So we have a lot more of these AI accelerators that are now available. We're also very excited to announce the launch of a new subscription product. It's called AI Edge, just like the podcast and just like our AI Edge newsletter. And the idea behind the AI Edge subscription is it's a constant drip learning tool for AI. And I think we need that right now, right? Like the speed of AI is so insane and trying to keep up with it yourself is so hard. We actually kind of built this for ourselves first. We were like, how do we keep up with all of this? We need to get organized and, figure out where the news is coming from, figure out how we're practicing every week, figure out like what's our kind of starting point with AI. So we kind of built this for ourselves and now we're building it for the rest of the industry. And that's the AI Edge subscription. So please check it out. Go to uofdigital.ai to check out the new hub and all the new solutions that are out there for your teams to be able to start learning about AI in marketing and advertising. Okay, well, thank you. That's this week's pod. Thanks, Heather, for joining us. Thanks, Myles, as always. And we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.